Well, welcome to everyone, and I'm so happy to see such a nice crowd in this room, still growing by people coming in, and I want to welcome you. It's hard to believe that this is our 14th conference. It started in Aspen in 2001, I believe Bill admitted, and it's continued ever since. Bill and Claudia Coleman are here. I want to acknowledge their presence and their tremendous leadership for the Institute for so long. Founding donors. And they've been a national force in promoting cognitive technologies for a long time, even before they discovered the University of Colorado and developed the Coleman Institute. Bill's experience in Silicon Valley has been the guiding light for us, a guiding light that brought Silicon Valley to Boulder and attempted to transform the essence and the great creativity to the benefit of people with cognitive disabilities. And that's what this institute has been about now for over 14 years and will continue to be working for. Now we have a small army of people, those of you in the audience and those of you who couldn't be here, who have begun to believe in the possibilities of technology. We know for sure, looking forward, that technology is going to have a gigantic role in this field. What we've been doing for 14 years is helping to get ready for that transition. Is there any doubt in anyone's mind that technology will play the major support role in the lives of people with cognitive disabilities within 10 to 20 years? There isn't in mine. And beyond that, it's almost science fiction to imagine the kind of individual supports that can be created and applied to enhance the quality of living of people with cognitive disabilities. We can't imagine today how much applications for adaptations and supports of an individual's limitations that will be able to be, shall we say, minimized. We've been doing that with more crude tools like psychology and special education, talk-generated teaching and so forth. But it's all going to become very personalized moving ahead, and it's already to some extent quite personalized already. But individualization is going to be a big part of all of this. I want to mention some good news. Kathy Bodine has once again competed for the third consecutive time to bring the Rehabilitation Engineering Research Center. It's called the RERC for Technologies to Enhance Independence and Daily Living for Adults with Cognitive Impairment. What she has done is run a string of years and commitments now that's going to be 15 years, that the only cognitive technologies rehabilitation research center in the country has been funded right here under her leadership as the principal investigator. I presume that she's here in the audience. Where are you, Kathy? There she is. Stay up. Stand up. Stand. Come on. There she is. Yeah. There is no one in this university working in the area of disability that has Kathy's smarts and commitment and just never says die. She is one smart lady, one tough lady, and one motivated woman who has really brought the anchor, and I don't use that as an attempt to be funny, but she has brought the anchor to the university in terms of the key large center grant that makes the statement that we walk the talk. We have the faculty to walk the talk. It would be very embarrassing and strange if the RERC on cognitive technologies was at the University of Waterloo. wouldn't it? And it's not. It's here, and it's never been anywhere else. And it exists only because of the advocacy of the Colemans, who we literally took to Washington, D.C. and introduced to the NIDER group of leaders. And they asked me after everybody left, so it would have been a secret, what do you want? There's only one answer to that question if you're an academic seeking funding. Do you know what that answer is? Susan Parrish would know. The answer is the opportunity to compete. That's the only answer any academic ever ought to have in that situation. It's not, hey, we want a grant. Can you send us a grant? It's the opportunity to compete. So we had the opportunity to compete, and Kathy's been our leader in regard to the RERC, and it's now been funded for 15 consecutive years. I'm glad that I don't have to be here when the RERC is at some other university. So for 5 years, that'll be the case. Thank you, Kathy, for all you've done and for what you have on your next 5-year horizon. As you may know, Renee Pietrangelo is retiring from her present position. Do all of you know this? Well, you do now. And I'm going to embarrass her right now. And it's nothing well polished. I wrote this in the room last night, and I was very tired, so you could be embarrassed. Be prepared. Letter to Renee. Dear Renee, this year marks my 47th year in the field of developmental disabilities. During this time, I have worked with many people. No one I have worked with surpasses your ability to lead with such intelligence, honor, and grace. Anchor has flourished under your guidance, and the beneficiaries have included thousands upon thousands of people with disabilities and their families. For an administrator, you are a beloved figure. Is such a combination possible? In you, yes. In most of us, no. Since this may be the last conference I have the opportunity to introduce you, my heart is heavy. But I'm grateful to have worked closely with you, and so is the Institute. I will never forget you, provided that some really good drugs in the future are developed to preserve my memory. Thank you for being one of the best partners the Coleman Institute has ever had. And in the phrasing of that old song, don't go away, Renee. Think it over. If you remember that, you're old. Okay, let's get rid of it. I always did do my best work at 1 o'clock in the morning, but it was something that needed to be done, and I knew if you knew about it, you would be more anxious than if you didn't. But we really feel warm is the right word toward you, and respectful, and we'll be sad when you go. Okay, it's hard to believe that this is really our 14th. So moving on, coming back to earth, let me continue the introduction. The Declaration was launched in 2013. Last year, right here in this room, we launched that Declaration of the Rights of People with Cognitive Disabilities to Technology and Information Access. You'll be hearing a lot about it in the next sessions during the day. How did it happen? How did it start? Well, we invited Thomas Gilhool, the attorney who litigated Pennsylvania Association for Retarded Children versus Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in 1971, and won that case in the sense that the defendants, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, laid down their arms and said, all right, we'll stipulate to an agreement that will work out, and the right to education, as you proposed in this court, will come to be. Gilhool was here in 2010, 40 years after Park versus Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and he stimulated us to think about the potential connections between the right to education and the potential of a right to technology. As technology becomes more ubiquitous in life and throughout our country and virtually every different kind of manifestation you can imagine, from playing games to communicating, it sends to us a message of where we're headed. We're headed where we do not know, but we know in the near future we're going to have greater capacities for personalization of individuals, personalization support for individuals with cognitive disabilities. And we know the better that we get at it, and we're going to get better at it, the greater the possibilities are for promoting a quality of life that we've never had the opportunity to help promote before for people with cognitive disabilities. So we invited Gilhool, and he spoke to us, he moved us. We asked him if he thought the application of emerging technologies was analogous to the right to education. And the reason for that was so we could develop a basis for filing a lawsuit. Actually, the idea was, if education was necessary and vital to people with cognitive disabilities back in 1971, when the Pennsylvania court said, you can't put these individuals in an institution and not provide education, then how can you put these people with cognitive disabilities on the ground in the United States without the opportunity, given the ubiquitous of technology in our society, to utilize that technology for self-advancement? You can't do that. And when we say we can't do that as a society, sometimes we are able to do it through legislation, sometimes it may require litigation. In this case, I think, like the Pennsylvania Association for Retarded Children versus Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is a tell. It's a tell that there will be opposition to our efforts to bring cognitive technologies into everyone's home and workplace who needs it, who has cognitive disabilities. And I say to you, we need to be prepared for that. It may be a stick we never have to raise in anger. And if we don't, we'll be able to thank Peter Blank. Because some court, somewhere, someday, is going to have to stand up to the best disability lawyer in the United States and say, there is a right for people with cognitive disability to technology and information access. That lawyer is going to be Peter, and we don't know when it'll be, but sometime in the next few years. Because we're not fooling around. We're not fooling around. Bill Coleman has taught us in the past 12 years how rapidly progress in technology evolves. We have helped teach Bill and Claudia about how our field works. Now we have one of the great leaders of Silicon Valley leading us, who is no longer an elementary school or being schooled in elementary content. He's well into graduate school at this point after 12, 14 years. So that's a dangerous connection there between those two things. Silicon Valley experience, and now knowing what all of us know about how our field works, how we work, and what the potentials are. Okay. What is the essence of the Declaration? The Declaration builds on the recognition of the rights of people with intellectual disabilities to be integrated into the community in schools, jobs, and residential living. Advocacy by parents with disabilities and conscientious professionals in the field have promoted inclusion and choice being codified within laws, policies, practices affecting people with developmental disabilities and their families. The Declaration moves the discussion into a new expression of community participation, the use of technology to socialize with others, share information, participate in government, and to have better access to education and work. So our call to action is to endorse the Declaration. Each of you will be part of that call to action who wishes to sign on to the document, and of course we hope that everyone will here. You each have a copy in your packet along with an article about the Declaration published by AAIDD in their online journal called Inclusion. If you haven't already endorsed the Declaration, you will have an opportunity to do so near the registration desk. Please add your name to that list. You count, particularly in these early years of promoting the Declaration. We're going to be a comparatively small number of people. We're going to grow. We're going to tell our friends. We're going to tell our families. We're going to tell our teachers. We're going to tell anyone who will listen and try to get everybody to sign this and make it thousands and thousands of people. Transition to the next session. I will introduce the next session by noting that our Associate Director for Research, our new Associate Director for Research, Shay Tanis, will moderate the panel looking at the Declaration 1 year hence. The panel that she will facilitate will talk about what has happened since last year when you all were here about the Declaration. David Irvin will be on that panel along with Maggie Nygren and Renee. David is the CEO and Executive Director of the Resource Exchange in Colorado Springs. He was the leader who took us into the Colorado legislature several months ago, and when we all walked out with a joint, what was it, David? A joint resolution. A joint resolution by both houses of the legislature endorsing the Declaration for the Rights of People with Cognitive Disabilities to Technology and Information Access. Can you imagine getting 200 legislators to sign on to that? You know how many didn't sign on to it? Zero. It wasn't a legislative fight as if we were seeking appropriations. It was something that everyone could buy into. So in your advocacy back in your home, try to do the same kind of thing in your home state. And talk about the fact that Colorado did it, and not only did it did it unanimously. There's no appropriations tied to it. It's just a statement of will, and that is to move in this direction. Later, we hope it may have resources tied to it. Right, David? But not immediately. We want to sensitize people to this. So, David, as I mentioned, is the CEO of the Resource Exchange in Colorado Springs, and we're grateful for his leadership on this and so many other things he's doing in health promotion and disease prevention as part of the RRTC at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Maggie Nygren is Executive Director and CEO of AAIDD. Where is Maggie? Stand up and say hi, Maggie. Hi. And her organization publishes the State of the States of Developmental Disabilities. The 2015 version of that, by the way, will be available shortly, before the end of the year. I just want to go back to Renee and emphasize that she's been the best partner one could hope for in our conferences as we have matured. She was matured when she started. We were children looking in the wilderness for a path, and she was always, I mean, these are true statements. I didn't make these up and I didn't write them down. But she's always had her feet on the ground, and she's been a great leader for us. So, as you may know, just this week her successor has been announced, and it's Barbara Merrill. And send our best wishes to Barbara, and we hope that she's here next year, and we will indoctrinate her as comprehensively as we have you into this setting. All right, we begin with an introductory video developed following last year's conference. Thank you.